Hi everybody, we're at Manley, and here's EveAnna.
Hi, how's it going? Welcome to Manley Labs here in
Well, thank you.
beautiful and bovine Chino, California. That is Chino, not China.
Chino, not China, yes, and that's going to be quite a distinct thing because this is where you manufacture your beautiful equipment.
We're in America, as
America.
we say.
I do know Chino really well. When you and I talked on the phone the other day,
I was asking you, did you serve time here?
Well, no, but I do go to Plains of Fame a lot.
Great.
Anybody that knows me knows that all of my companies are called Spitfire, Lancaster, Wellington. They're all named after planes. So I love it.
Corsair.
Corsair, I love the Corsair.
They have a Corsair over there.
And a Wildcat and a Hellcat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's just about two or 3 miles from here.
I know, when we were getting off the freeway, I was like, I know where I am. All right, so we're here.
We're here.
Show us around.
Welcome, and let's go see the factory. We have a few awards here.
Wow.
Sorry, it's a little dark. Oh, look.
It's quite all right. He's got a light
Look at
thing.
Instant light. A couple awards from over the years here.
I was about to say, I have one of these, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Some
11?
might be duplicates, to be honest. One might be my personal one, and one might be the factory one. Oh yeah, I can see. Like, there's 2 boxes. I think I should probably take my set home, right?
That's quite all right.
So yeah, we've been awarded some awards over the years.
Well, you make beautiful equipment.
Thank you. Just offices and things are kind of boring in here. Skip. Let's go out onto the production floor. So,
Wow.
yeah, we moved to this building in 1993, and we split from the prior company that we were building audiophile and pro audio products, and that company was called Vacuum Tube Logic of America. And that was formed by David Manley and then his son Luke also. And I joined those guys in 1989, just on the production line, learning how to solder. I realized, shoot, I took French in high school. I should have taken Spanish, but I did go back. My last course in college was the Spanish class, so I communicate with our guys. But I started on the very bottom rung at the company, at the old factory. And in 1993, we split VTL and Manley. By that time, David and I were married, but he had some issues, and one of them was fighting with his son, and so we split the companies. And the smartest thing he ever did was buy this building. So
Beautiful.
later, when we got divorced, I bought him out of all of that. And so anyway, I own this building as well. So yeah, we are camped here for real.
Great, congratulations.
So our guys. Well, I'll take you to the machine shop first, because also in 1993 we happened to buy this machine shop, and
Nice.
it helps us design really cool products that we can machine and build and scratch. And it's a little gym here for the guys. Come on back.
I could do with some working out.
Right? Just keep working, George. You're good. So what happened in 1993, we bought this machine shop, and there was a machine shop next door to us at the old factory. And the guy had gotten into a tax problem and didn't pay his employment taxes, so David acquired the machine shop for the price of the tax debt, basically. And that included, at the time, a CNC machine, a computer numeric controlled machine.
Right.
So we were making all of our metalwork right here inside this room when we moved this shop over here. We sold the CNC machine to a sheet metal house down the street, so they still make all our old faceplates on our old Morisaki machine.
Right.
And those faceplates, so these are all made in Chino, not China. Here's a massive passive faceplate right here, and as you can see, there's quite elaborate milling going on here, and having the facility and, intricately learning what the capabilities of these machines are, over the years we've been able to develop some really cool looking products here's another famous one, the Vox Box. Look at that.
It's gorgeous.
So I remember prototyping the first one of these. I'd drawn it out on paper, and we drafted it, drafted all the start and finish positions, and we prototyped the first one on that machine, on that manual Bridgeport. And
The second machine?
Yes.
Yep.
And it was a real bear at the time. Like, you know, we had to jig up a rotary table and, you know, spin the work around. And it was crazy getting all those shapes. But now, I mean, that was prototyping. We don't prototype manually anymore. We just, you know, draw it out, draft it out, and hand it. And then they program the machine and it spits out a faceplate.
Fantastic.
So what we do in here these days is more the polishing and finishing.
Right.
So what George was doing over there is polishing the edges of the faceplate, because when you get them in raw, there's, you know, the saw marks.
Sure.
And then he runs them through the line grainer here to finish, put the brush finish. And then we drive the parts to the anodizers in Ontario and get the color put on there, black or the blue or whatever.
Beautiful. So what's he about to do here?
Well, this is the back. Some of our chassis, the way they're designed, the top and the bottom covers slide into the back of the faceplate. It's a little more cost effective to just set up this horizontal mill here, and George hits go, and then the panel will just traverse right through it and cut that slot. And it can cut slowly while he does something else, and then it'll come and put another part on.
Right.
So we do just a few things here. We just have one machinist, machine operator, you know, doing the polishing and finishing, and pretty simple stuff. The main fabrication is done down the street, or there's another lathe shop here in the office park that have a lot of automated lathes.
Right.
You know, where they have these hoppers that, you know, a 12-foot cylinder of aluminum goes in, and out the other end pukes out a microphone base, you know. So as you know, the difference between a lathe and a mill. On a lathe, the work is spinning and the tool is stationary, you know, cutting into it.
Right.
And on a mill, the opposite, the tool is spinning and the work is stationary. So that's how these things are done.
I love that you know all this. It's amazing.
We've lived very in close quarters for a long time.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's a sandblast cabinet here. So it's literally like the sands of time. It's sand. It's a very fine sand. And that is shot through an air hose. So you close this lid and it pressurizes itself. And you put your hands in here. And you have a gun. And then whatever you're sandblasting, you know, you step on the foot switch and you shoot it. You shoot that sand under high pressure, you know, and then it creates a matte finish. So when we get to the microphone room, you'll see the reference silver microphone has that cool hatch pattern on it.
Yep.
Every one of those is done right here in this sandblast cabinet. So we slide, it's like a mesh, a plastic mesh with a pattern. We slide it on, and then the whole body is high polished, and then we slide that thing on and shoot it with the sandblast, and that becomes matte, and it shows the pattern through. It's kind of neat. So
gorgeous. I
came up with that because I knew we had a sandblast machine right here.
You're like, let's do something unique.
Let's do something new.
Great.
Yep. Okay. Now this is kind of fun because it's not every day you get to see a computer relic such as this. Do you know what this is?
I mean, it's one of the earliest computers I've ever seen in my entire life.
It'll make a funny sound. It'll make a bloop sound. Right here, it's no hard drive. It doesn't know what day it is. It runs off of 5 1/4 floppies.
Nice.
That's crazy. Bloop. Just press A, the A key there. Okay,
Loading in progress.
It's loading up its little program from its own little RAM. That's all it knows how to do right now.
March the 16th, 1994.
That's when it was deployed here. Well, that's an Apple II.
Apple II.
And I opened it up. That motherboard in there is, because you can look at all the Apple history online.
Yeah.
It's a computer. It's through hole. There's lots of like 16 pin and 24 pin Beatles in there.
Yeah.
And discrete through hole resistors. It's crazy, but that computer was made in 1982 in Singapore. The board was.
82.
And it works every day.
82 doesn't seem that long ago, but in computer technology, it's eons ago.
It's dinosaur age of computers.
Yeah.
So that machine is driving, that computer is driving this mechanical engraver here. And the mechanical engraver, there's a little tool here. Damn, that's on tight. It's a little tool. So this one, it says it's an 015. So just the very, very tip of that tool has been ground with a width of 0.015 inches.
Wow.
And so it will drag, it's going to spin, this wheel will spin it, and it's going to drag itself through, say, some anodized aluminum. And then it exposes the raw aluminum underneath it. So it's a really beautiful look. It's very shiny because you're seeing the metal. But it is a bit cumbersome to operate. You have to kind of pay attention to it. There's, parts that are wearing out. You've got to ensure the flatness, and it takes someone with a couple brains to operate. So it's very labor intensive.
Vintage engraving.
Indeed. So, after a while, this cool new laser technology came up. And for instance, here's a custom faceplate we did for a customer on Friday, actually, where this works off a modern program, such as Corel Designer. This laser engraver acts like a big USB printer. So I put the customer's name on here and his nickname. And used some funny, weird fonts, and we ran this part in there on Friday for him, just custom. So what happens is, we've got our parts department back in the corner back there.
Yep.
And when you're building a product, you've got what's called a bill of materials, or BOM, and that lists every single resistor and capacitor and board and switch and diode and everything necessary to build a product. Annually, we look at our sales, and then we predict over, say, the next year, well, maybe we're going to sell 200 of these. Well, and over, say, 35 products. So we make a grid and a list, and we schedule like when we think we're going to build 20 more boxes or whatever.
Right.
So when that time comes along, Verna in the parts department, she'll pull all the parts needed for that production run and put them on a cart like this, and literally wheel them all out to one of the workers. And we also schedule their what they're working on. And sometimes they're teamed up working on things together, and sometimes different guys are working on different things. But, this is production line manufacturing here. So you can see she's bolting together the faceplate for the box. It's all done by hand, by Americans, which we're proud of. And there's just not machines that do this stuff. So, there's real people putting this stuff together every day. So
Beautiful.
What she's doing is, there's all kinds of things that, you learn the hard way over the decades. For instance, you see that the anodize has been scraped away here, and that's because like a metal shafted switch, like a Greyhill switch, sometimes if it's a high impedance circuit and you touch that metal knob, if it's not electrically grounded to the faceplate, you'll hear a little buzz, or a little noise when you touch it.
Oh, I see.
Even the conductive plastic Bourne's pots, and you think, well, how does it conduct? Because the shaft is plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, conductive plastic, sorry, that's the element. The shaft is plastic. But still, we can measure it. We can notice, like, if you touch the knob, it will put something into the signal. So you see, that's why we've got the anodized scraped away, so all these will make a good electrical ground contact.
Did you go to school for this? Did you learn it on the job?
I learned it on the job.
Learned it on the job.
Yeah, I learned that on the job. I learned when I was doing quality control and measuring gear every day and seeing problems and seeing why things did not work. That's how I learned about how things are supposed to work.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you can see these internal tooth washers going on there. That's so that they'll bite into that faceplate and create a good ground connection. That's specifically why that's there. And yeah, you got to pay attention to the tiniest little detail. Voila!
We know the Vari Mu very well.
There he is in all its glory. Now these, look here, these have these beautiful 24 position gray hill switches here.
Wow.
And these are 2 decks, you know, that's a balanced output, so there's a positive and a negative there.
That's great.
And those switches are made in America as well. They're frightfully expensive, but they're super hyper reliable as well, and that's so important because this gear should outlast me and you. I mean, there's no reason this gear couldn't be working in another 50 years, right?
That's what we want.
Maybe recap it, change the tubes, but actually these guys can work for decades and decades. I mean, we already have gear out there that's over 30 years old.
Right. Amazing.
And people don't just like throw it away or whatever. So
I'm using a lot of superlatives. Everything's great, amazing, wonderful. I like
tremendous.
This. I haven't used tremendous yet. I will.
So that's the current build of the Variable Mu. This has been in production since 1994, and there's been about 9 major revisions to the layout. A lot of heat-related things, you know, and again, you kind of learn about that over time. Like the original designs, you know, why weren't they thinking? Why did they put the heat-producing thing right next to the thing that doesn't like heat, you know, like the capacitor? So we've mitigated a lot of those kind of problems over the years. So
wonderful.
Definitely the latest ones are the ones to go for as far as reliability goes, ultimately.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's an industry standard.
It has become an industry standard, definitely.
So much that I see a lot of plugins just called VU,
Yeah.
VMU.
Yeah, they need to be paying me royalties if they're modeling my gear. Universal Audio is the only authorized Variable Mu plugin out there, so we work together with them to make sure it's a very authentic presentation of it. So
There's barely a professional studio I've been in my life that doesn't have one of these, at least one.
It's become a standard for sure.
Wonderful,
Or
congrats.
several. Thank you. Thank you much. Right here, we're doing, actually that's a kind of sneak preview. We're doing a special revival build, a 30th anniversary reissue of the original Manley dual mono mic pre.
Oh, wow.
And that's an all-tube microphone preamp. It's very labor intensive because it's in a 1U chassis, so all the tubes are lying down and all the inputs and outputs are hand wired. So it actually takes almost 9 hours to put that guy together, which is insane.
Right.
You know, that's so much labor.
Yeah.
And that's one thing in more recent years, like with the Manley Core or the Force, we've brought the price down by engineering it to build fast in America.
Right.
So that's good. Well, I'll show you an example of that in a moment.
What did you have up here? You were telling us.
Oh yeah, there's got a lot of tubes in the building, and you can see some ancient stashes of Russian weird tubes.
So did you just buy them in bulk when they were available?
Ages ago. There's like 2,000 of those GY50s, we should make a cool power amp out of them, you know, but there they are. Also like those 6BA6s, they're up there. Those are the rectifier tubes for the Variable Mu.
Yeah.
So we've got enough to build 5 kabillion Variable Mus, so keep
or,
buying them.
Or a Sputnik.
Yeah, that's right.
So what are these?
These are some 250 watt power amplifiers
Gorgeous.
before their faceplates have come on. This is just their raw chassis. They use 10 EL34s per channel. And they're not guitar amps or bass amps. They're used for audiophile playback or, you know, even in a big studio like Jackson Browne's studio.
How much are these?
Retail price on these days, I think around $13,000 a pair. You get two.
2 monoblocks.
Yeah, but there's a lot of dollars in this chassis. These two monstrous transformers, and these caps are expensive. The tubes are expensive. You can, oh God, they're heavy. You can look underneath. Ah. Input
Amazing.
Transformer, all the hand wiring. There's real dollars in there. This is not, you know, this is not like audiophile cable manufacturing markup.
Yeah.
Those guys are crazy. This
Right.
is actually the same, you know, same formula. When we add up our bill of materials cost and our labor, and we figure, you know, it costs X to build this thing, our markup to distribution is not that much at all. And it's the same for all our hi-fi products. It's the same formula we use for pro products too. So this stuff's all real world. There's some ancient, you probably are on the cover of one of these magazines from the olden days.
I am from one of the mixed ones, yes. I
Yeah,
saw
there's
mixed.
some-
Long time ago.
Some historic magazines here. Boys to Men. There's probably some stuff about ADATs, you know, or, yeah. Oh my God, look, I did not stage this in review. The Alesis ADAT XT.
That was the grey one. I remember buying one of those.
There it is.
I had the black one and then I bought the XT.
So there we are, May 1996. I don't know why we still have these EQ magazines and mixed magazines here, but here's the great George Massenburg.
Absolutely.
Look at him. He had a special issue. So that's just crazy, huh?
No, it's amazing they're having this stuff.
It's just, they're just keeping the floor down so the floor doesn't float away. Hey, you know those Mastering Lab Tannoy speakers?
I do. We need to talk about these.
Well, you know, we did a thing with Doug Sachs a million years ago in the early 90s, and we made a good layout for his crossover and designed a cabinet and installed them inside the cabinet. The cabinet was a lot beefier than the original Tannoy cabinet. And we did a joint project with Mastering Lab, Manley, and Tannoy at the time. And Tannoy, I think we commissioned the last like 200 drivers that Tannoy ever made of that 10-inch driver. And then those went away. But today, if you have those drivers, or you find a pair of those drivers, you cannot buy the crossovers separately. Sorry, you must buy them installed in these beautiful cabinets.
I knew it's finding the drivers is the part, isn't
That's a bit of the problem right now.
Yep.
Well, let's put this here.
I wonder if Tannoy will graciously reissue them.
Well, they're owned by Behringer now, so
Oh, wow.
I don't even know. So there's that beautiful beefy cabinet. So there's a run right here that have been kitted out. Oh, here's a basket off one of those drivers.
So these are the SGMs you were telling me, is that correct?
Those are the SGMs.
Not the little golds.
Little golds are 12, and S is small for 10.
Ah,
But this is the Wonder Woman edition, the invisible speaker. This is just a basket. But if you open up your Tannoys, if you see this golden basket, the golden baskets, then you have the correct driver to be installed in the ML10 speaker system
gorgeous.
with the famous Mastering Lab crossover. There it is. So yeah, we did that deal with Doug, and we paid him his royalties, and we miss Doug. He was a wonderful guy.
He was the
was-
mastering engineers, him and Bob Ludwig are
Yep.
like the...
He was such a cool dude. Everyone learned a lot from Doug Sachs. We miss him a lot. Anyway, we are still producing these awesome speakers.
Just
So,
got to find the actual drivers themselves.
yeah, just keep hunting eBay, and then call me up, and we'll sell you a pair of those. Right here, yeah, these are more of those that special anniversary run of the dual mono mic pre's. So these are built just like they were in 1990. As you can see, a very simple board. components are loaded on both sides of the board for maximum, space efficiency, everything. At the time, we're like, oh, rack space is at a minimum. We should build 1U products. But nowadays, people don't care. Like, they want to show off their 3U box,
Right.
It's not that expensive.
Well, plus, you
now.
go into a studio, it used to be hundreds of pieces of outboard. Now you go into even the bigger studios and they've got like 10 pieces.
That's right. So we are not doing 1U chassis anymore.
Right. No miniaturization.
They just add too much labor, and then you're paying for that. It makes it needlessly expensive. Here's the wiring harnesses. So she's got a copy board there that tells you, how many, which wires and how long go in that product. She's given a little work order to do, and so she's prepping all the wires to go in that run of units. So that becomes part of the kit of parts. To give you an idea, here's some copy boards here. Well, all right. Let's find some things here to compare. So there's all the wires in a box. Okay,
Right.
That's a lot, right?
That is a lot, yeah.
There's a lot. So it's going to take a lot longer to put that together than the core. They're both channel strips, right? But the box, we laid it out and designed it in 1997. And this was done in 2014. So we learned a little bit about efficiency and
Right.
using printed circuit boards to our advantage and minimizing the hand labor that's going in the boxes. And if you ask, like, well, why is the core half the price of the box? One big reason is because it takes half as long to put together. Look
Right.
at all these wires, right? There's 30 wires to put together here versus 9. So again, we have to pay an American worker to do these things for us.
We don't mind paying American workers.
We don't, but if do you want to pay $4,600 for this thing or $2,200 for the thing? If we can be more efficient with our layouts and design, then we can keep the price as low as possible.
Great. And what is this?
This cool machine here is part of the wiring prep. So you put a spool of wire here, you run it through the tensioner, you run the wire through this thing, boom, boom, boom. You run it through here. And there's some jaws, some pneumatically activated jaws that have little knife blades like that and go. And
Hence the protective area here.
yeah, you don't want to put your finger in there. So you program your length and how many and hit go, and it will cut and strip that wire for you. So we're not going to have all this repetitive injury stuff or lawsuits, And the machine will do every one exactly the same.
Fantastic.
So this American worker works pretty cheaply.
Mr. Eubanks?
Mr. Eubanks.
Miss Eubanks?
Does not take vacations. It's a really reliable, good American worker here.
What is this? I don't know the steelhead.
The steelhead was one of the world's first phono stages with adjustable loading on the faceplate. And here we're doing this with mechanical switches. So it's a phono preamp. So you have 3 sets of, you could have a turntable with 3 arms on it if you wanted to. You've got adjustable gain,
Gorgeous.
adjustable input loading, and there's also 1 line input in this thing. So you can throw your D to A converter's outputs into this, and this can be your whole preamplifier and drive your amplifiers if you want. But it's also got a radio frequency remote control.
Fantastic.
So this guy works through walls, works through cabinets. You can use it anywhere in your house. You don't have to point and shoot it. It's really awesome.
This is another superlative. This is beautiful. I love how this feels.
Well, we
Gorgeous.
saw George, polishing faceplates like this back there.
Yeah.
And that's that ultimate finish there. This color we've used forever in the Manley range. It's called pewter gray. The anodizers call it pewter gray, but it's kind of a bluish color. We call it Manley blue.
Nice.
And for the audiophile products, we're also offering silver and black as well, because sometimes they're like, blue doesn't go with my silver or black.
I love the blue.
I do too, but I'm not buying the product, so. There's that anniversary celebration dual mono mic pre, but that's the finished piece right there. And we did it with a special cobalt blue insert just
Gorgeous.
to make something pretty. So this area here is all the final packaging. You can
Wow,
see
this
we have,
power amp here, the Stingray 2.
oh yeah, that's got its protective foam on it for transport. I'll come around and show you how it looks.
See, this whole world of the hi-fi area is it's not in my wheelhouse, so
Oh, you're lucky. Sometimes those guys are kind of crazy.
I mean, I'd love to know more about it, and I am finding out about it.
Well,
Oh, it's gorgeous.
These puppies sure sound good too. So the Stingray, the Stingray 2 is the second major iteration of an original product I did in 1997 with these EL84s, which is what you find in a Vox AC30.
Beautiful.
And, you know, again, these output transformers for all our power amps, we make them here upstairs. We'll get up there. And it's a really rocking little amplifier. It's an integrated amplifier, which means it has a volume and volume balance. It's got 4 different inputs. It's got a subwoofer output. It's got a record output.
Great.
And a remote control, another radio frequency remote control.
Best of all, it's a work of art.
Thank you. It's a little piece of metal sculpture that plays songs. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous piece of gorgeous.
Thanks. It sounds really rocking too. I mean, I really voiced this to sound like bigger than a 40-watt amplifier. You know what I mean? So
Larger than life.
it's a great little guy. Back here is packaging, and you know, we've got a lot of stock, so we're ready to ship. We don't want to lose any sales because we didn't have one available. So we've invested a lot of money to have available stock.
Great.
That's a lot of money. So you got to fill in the declarations for export and
Yeah, all kinds of fun stuff.
all kinds of things to fill an order. So
And then after SLR,
all these things. So Pat takes care of all that and maintains the finished stock. These products have been through quality control, so they're ready to be packed up. And Pat's really important because he's the last guy with eyeballs on the unit. Like if he spots something like a scratch or something wonky, he needs to bounce it back to QC. He's the last QCer, you know what I mean?
You're the QC of the QC.
Yeah.
The QC of the QC. I mean,
He's the end of the line.
people pay good money for this stuff, and I want them to have the absolute best product. So, yeah, that's what's too
Or else
expensive.
we'll hear about it.
Yes.
Thank you,
In
Pat.
forums.
That's right. So what you're seeing here, this is units after quality control, just burning in and cooking in, and just being on for a couple days, longer if we've got time, depends. They're just baking in, and then there's some jigs on top here just for the power supplies before they even get installed in the units. And again, we'd rather something fail and blow up here rather than your studio.
Right.
So
I mean, these are just, these tubes are insane. Look at these.
those are 300Bs. Those are really old tube design. This power amplifier is a bit of a retro throwback kind of design with it. It's got vacuum tube rectifiers here. These octal socket input tubes here, they're nostalgic. And this amplifier is unique, actually unique to the world in that you can switch the output tube topology. It's a mono amplifier, so you have one for left, one for right. But you can switch it from push-pull at push of a switch or parallel single-ended operation. So that's switching how the output tubes are configured.
Right.
And basically you're going to get predominantly even order harmonics when you're in single-ended mode, and a little more total distortion. And then in push-pull mode, you get a cancellation out, but you do get some, you might get some crossover distortion, but you'll predominantly be getting the odd order harmonics out of push-pull. So it changes the whole way the thing sounds. And maybe if you're listening to simple, like female vocal, simple jazz music, maybe single-ended will sound like really round and spatial. And then if you're listening more complicated, like rock and roll music, you probably want to go back to push-pull and apply more feedback to it to tighten up the sound. So it gives the audiophile something to play with. You can
Fantastic.
make it sound a whole lot of ways. So right here, these are just a couple little jigs. Every single tube, before it gets plugged into a unit, has to get measured, qualified, burned in. They get burned in before they go in the units. This little jig here is testing for, you'll plug all the EL34s into here, and you can see the current draw, so then you can batch them up and select a whole bunch of tubes with the same current draw for one amplifier.
Amazing.
So it's a little batching jig, so is that, and then that little jig at the end there is stepping through the 5670s that are used as the gain control element in the variable mu, and it's going to tell us whether the two triodes that are living inside each of those glass bottles are a good match for each other or not. And the variable mu, if you want to apply a really fast attack time to it, and you've got a very high transient thing like a snare drum or something, or piano, the better matched that all the triodes are in that circuit, then the faster you can go without getting a percussive artifact. So that's why that jig's in existence, is that we're selecting well-matched triode to triode, because we can't change what's inside the bottle, right? There's two triodes in there, and we can't change that. What we can do is select 4 tubes that have a good internal match. And the ones
Great
that
detail.
don't pass that test, perhaps we can use them in another kind of circuit, like something that works more in series rather than parallel, where we need a good match. So that's what that jig does. So we don't have the luxury, and you don't want to pay for, a 20% yield out of 100, right? Otherwise, that $10 vacuum tube now costs a lot more money, right? So we have to maximize our usage. That's just one parameter, and then they need to be tested for noise and microphonics and everything else too.
A lot of detail going into
A lot of detail. There's a Manley Force.
Yeah, tell me about the Manley Force.
Yeah, back to our story, we're talking about like that other 2-channel mic pre taking 9 hours to put together. This guy flies together in 1 hour.
Amazing.
And again, it's because the chassis is 2U, the tubes are all standing up. We've got one board living inside, and there's very minimal hand wiring in here. So you see all the input and output jacks are on the board. The board is the full width of the chassis, but the chassis is not any bigger than it needs to be, right? And so then that board doesn't get as expensive because it's not needlessly large.
I understand.
So we're giving you 4 channels at about $1,000 less than the old 2-channel unit used to be.
Oh, that's incredible.
Right? Also made in America, and just through being smarter with the layout and design, and it's still a very beautiful unit and all those things.
Gorgeous.
Importantly to these newer products is this new power supply. There's a whole rack of them down there behind you.
And tell us about this new power supply.
So this is switch mode power supply. And you might say, oh my God, switch mode power supply. Yeah, well, I got your switch mode power supply. This beautiful thing, do you know who Bruno Putzis is? Oh God, he's one of the most brilliant audio designers on the planet. He used to work at Philips of Holland. He's one of those smart guys. But I got to know him at trade shows, as you do. And I knew he was like a total expert with switching power supplies. And for me, I'm like, oh good, we don't have to like reconfigure voltages. Like they can work anywhere around the world. That was just what I was thinking about. So I asked Bruno, I said, hey Bruno, you like these switching supplies a lot, can you make one that's like dedicated for vacuum tubes? Like we need 300 volts and we need a lot of current for the heaters and so on. He's like, oh yeah, I can do that. So we hired him to design this awesome power supply. And it's not just what you can see here. There's also like a kabillion little surface mount parts on the bottom of the board underneath there too. this thing is so damn good. Number one, all our hum problems, whatever was remaining, disappeared, because there's no radiation of 60 or 50 hertz into the products anymore. All the output rails, including our 300 volts, they're all regulated, they're all super low impedance, they're quiet. You know, this thing works at 125 kilohertz, and that's outside our audible band. It's a very low radiating part. That means that 125 kilohertz doesn't get very far, so it, you know, we can place it at one end of the chassis and it's not going to get into the audio electronics anyway, even without a case. But the bottom line, the cost, we didn't really save that much money on the pricing. It's actually about the same cost to build this versus a linear supply, although the big power transformers do get more expensive, with bigger power transformers. This won the shootouts. So I remember taking 2 phono stages down to Pete Lyman's Infrasonics mastering, and we listened to records he cut in his nice environment there. And we listened to a unit with a linear supply and a unit with this guy, and blind listening test, and we totally picked this one every time as being quieter, blacks are blacker, the high end was like zippier and more exciting and fun sounding, and this thing just sounds better. I love it. I'm a huge fan. It's going in like everything we can put it into, So this
Amazing.
is,
Congratulations.
It's super cool, modern technology.
How long did it take to design?
They worked on it for, I think it was about a year design cycle before we had, and we went through a couple prototypes. And I think they made 3 revisions in the first few years of production, but it's a very stable product now, and we have a smaller version of it with fewer rails that we're using for the microphones as well. So we're just switching all of our microphones to it right now. And we're building the last of the linear supply massive passives, and so you'll see the next version of massive passive when we're getting rid of this stupid power switch here that's prone to failures and breakages and things. When you see the one with the blue push button power button, that will be that supply. And that supply, you can turn it on with a low voltage. So yeah, this in shipping, sometimes it gets hit and it breaks, or this comes loose. There's issues with this switch sometimes. But anyway, we're lowering the noise floor and making it more reliable and making it sound better going with the new power supply. So that's coming out later this year.
By the way, I have to say, I love how you name your products. The Jumbo Shrimp there.
The
Sorry.
Stingray.
The Stingray, the Force. This is gorgeous.
I can't remember X1,
Yeah, exactly.
BZ2, or
I was on a conference call with a company this morning, and I was like, "Do you mean the 68P or the Q1?" And it's just like, ha.
I know. We already have to memorize all the vacuum tubes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, like the Massive Passive, I remember we had a contest on Rec Audio Pro. Mm-hmm. And one guy, we had 300 submissions, everyone emailed me. Mm-hmm. We ran a contest. Remember Rec Audio Pro?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Before Gear Sleds, there was rec.audio.pro. Yeah, and there was a guy who came up with Massive Passive. It's like, oh my God, that's the name of our new equalizer.
Great idea.
Cool. So yeah, this power supply, this is vitally important to the future of this company. And this is technology that we have that none of our peers have.
Congrats.
Shh, don't tell.
You just did.
Oh, shite. Saulo started working at the old company a few months after I did. We've been working together over 30 years. See, he's got a whole bunch of work to do.
30 years.
So Saulo is rolling his own work to his bench. He's about to start putting together those mic preamps. Transformer land. This is what you're gonna see get made in there. Chokes, also chokes. So these little guys. So we wind our own audio transformers and chokes here at Manley Labs. This is also secret sauce,
Okay.
but we'll let you see it.
Ah.
Because just you try to replicate this. It's not that easy. So we set up these, let's go in there. We set up this department in the mid-90s. So what's happening here? Oh good, royalty-free music. Cool. What's happening here is they've got a call out for what they're gonna make. You know, this is a very simple part. Set, 750 turns of 35 gauge wire. They're gonna start at pin 1 and finish pin 5. This is a very simple part. So they're gonna pull the wire through here, put it around, tie it off on one of these pins. They'll program in 750 turns. They've set the width here and in the pitch, how fast. It's like a record lathe in a way, right?
I was thinking that or guitar pickups.
Yeah, same. And then hit go, and this will spin and pull all the wire on until it gets to 750 turns, and then it'll stop, and he'll tie that off and then start the next winding. The tape, that's it. It's little pieces of insulation tape he's already cut and prepped. And yeah, it's all about insulation, actually. People think it's about wire, it's about insulation. So you don't want that part to fail or short out. It's easy to wind something, but to keep it working, that's special too. Anyway, what's really special is the ability to be able to design parts and make them consistently decade after decade. So, a part you get today in the variable mu, that output transformer is exactly the same as what it was in the 90s, It's a
Wonderful.
good reliable part. Here's a bobbin for
A slightly larger
that's
transformer.
a slightly larger, that's for a power amp. Whoa, here's a big guy here.
Jesus, Mary
That's
and Joseph. Oh, you're not kidding.
That's a big guy.
You cannot understate how heavy this is.
It's pretty heavy. I guess we could empirically state how heavy it is.
Yes, we can empirically say how. And
I know the finished amplifier weighs 86 pounds. I just saw that number on Friday.
This is definitely.
That's probably
a good,
about half of it.
About half of it, yeah.
Yep, because a power transformer would be about that big.
It's so much heavier than it looks, and it looks heavy.
It's good for
Yeah.
working out. But yeah, every part, these are little laminations here, little tiny little E's. See, you have your E's, and then you have your I's. That's why they call them an EI transformer. Get it?
Yep.
So when she's laminating the parts, I wonder if I'm going to mess it up here. Well, she's putting, E's. She's putting E, and then she flips it on the side and slides the I's in, and then she tapes it with the yellow tape. And that completes that part. And then it goes in a mu metal case. And see that dot there? I'm not getting this mixed up, and that's corresponding to pin 1 there. So that goes in just like that. And then that will get potted with epoxy to hold it all in. But the mu metal also really helps with the shielding and noise and all that stuff too. Made in America. Made
Here.
one by one with hands by American humans. So it's super clever. This stuff is a big part of why Manley gear sounds the way it does, because there's so many transformers in all of the units,
Yeah, I'm so used to even the most famous names in the world, like Neve, and
Sure.
using other people's transformers.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think they ever wound their own.
Although I do know that Rupert obviously was originally a transformer designer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He worked at Partridge, so I'm sure he spec'd them. But yeah, you have a unique situation
You
here.
have
where
total control. And it's really cool in the design process, because when you're working with an outside vendor, it can take weeks to get another revision back, and we can wind something in a couple hours, and then it's on the test bench, and we're listening to it, and that's how we can develop parts quite readily. I mean, the latest part we developed for that headphone amplifier, because it has to switch topology, and it has to be able to accommodate a bunch of boosting of bass and treble and variable feedback, and it has to, and different output impedance ranges. There's like all these things we're asking that poor little transformer to do. So it was a lot to develop a part that could measure admirably in every possible mode.
Right.
So they went through like 23 prototypes, you know, because you get it really good for this, and then it's like, ah, darn, we just lost the high frequency performance on that, you know. So after, if you were doing 23 prototypes with an outside vendor, it would have taken years, you know what I mean? Or you'd be tearing your hair out, or you'd just say, yeah, just, all right, we're done.
I can only
Okay,
imagine.
15, okay, I'm done. But we have the speed and proximity here to be able to develop really cool parts.
You just go downstairs and plug it in and try
That's
it out.
right. So let's check out the R&D department. Here's Corey working on a board layout there.
Yeah, this is
As you see, he's driving a program called Altheum Designer. And what you see with those gray lines there, those are, you know, the circuits on the left side. So that's been drafted out. And then as far as laying out a board, the little gray lines, it's called a rat's nest. So he's got to, that's where the connection needs to go, but he's got to route the trace to make that connection, you know, obviously without colliding into other traces. And how many layers on this board are you working
This will
with?
be a 4-layer.
This will be,
Because this is the pick board.
yeah. So there's 4, it's like a sandwich. So he'll have 4 levels, like a parking garage, to route all these connections on. And that's a real tight pitch in there. And it's blown up really big on the computer, but in real life it'll be a really tiny little board.
Yeah, this board will only be
How big's he gonna be?
3 by 4.
3 by 4 inches. Yeah, it looks ginormous on the screen, but
A lot of information compacted into a very small package.
yeah, and it's gonna live alongside that Neanderthal knuckle dragging technology called vacuum tubes. So yeah, there's gonna be code. Learn your coding, people. Coding's very important to the world. So yeah, we're gonna have a little bitty brain in there with some instruction that's, you know, gonna tell those relays to go fire and those LEDs to come on. It's kind of clever.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So here's
There's the little golds up there.
yeah, those are the 12s.
Yeah, those are gorgeous.
And here, this is a pair of the prototype cabinets from the early 90s. You see with 2 ports. They're an ugly prototype cabinet. That's the 10s, and those are the 12s. Also, the 12s had the cloth surround, and the 10s always had the rubber. Oh, it's magic.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Oh, God, that sounds so good.
Surprised they don't reissue those drivers.
Who knows what's going on with those guys now? I don't know.
Uli's buying everything, isn't he?
Not buying Manley. Although given enough money. Here's a prototype right here of a hi-fi preamplifier that we're working on.
Top secret?
It's coming out later this year. This was proto number 1. We've been working on these for about a year. There's that power supply we're talking about. And we've changed up some of the feature set in this, and that's it. Corey's working on boards for that right now. We're adding some more controllability and more features to it. So these are some of the projects we've been working on. And here's the quality control room. The other guys have gone home for the day, sorry. Here's Martine.
Hi, Martine.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Martine's gonna test up a Manley Steelhead phono stage here. This is, again, an audiophile product. You can see it's jammed full of tubes and transformers and big, beautiful capacitors and bright LED shining on the badge.
Yeah, it is.
So after a unit's built, get rolled into here. After a visual inspection, get rolled into here, and then it goes through a battery of tests on audio precision testing machines. And he's going to read out he's going to set the gains, he's going to look at the frequency response, he's going to look at the distortion and the noise. The tubes, remember, have all been pre-tested before they got installed. He's going to check all the power supply rails, make sure everything's functioning
How
as
long
it
does
should.
this process take on each unit?
Can usually, well, there's stages. So he'll do the first stage of basic getting the unit on and calibrated. Like some of the limiters, you have to calibrate the timing and stuff. And then after it's basically functioning, then it goes out to just cook in, burn in outside in the production floor there. And then it comes back in for a second test and listening test as well. So all in all, I don't know, it can take a half hour to an hour per unit. It depends if there's an error, like you might be chasing a really insidious problem, like a random noise or something really weird, that you haven't seen before. And sometimes it takes a couple hours to figure out what the hell is causing that problem. I remember like chasing this intermittent noise. It turned out to be like a metal flake that was embedded inside the fiberglass of the PC board, like in the middle of it, in the middle of the fiberglass. It was nothing that anyone we knew had done. And I located the issue, like I'm in there with a Dremel tool, like carving out a giant hole in the board at that point, and I could see the metal in there. You can get the weirdest things sometimes. These units have been built. Here's some Manley New Muse here. It's beautiful.
The new Mu. I don't know what this is. What's this? It's new.
It's new. The New Mu is a variable Mu with a discrete solid state and FET output stage instead of a tube output stage. And importantly, it's also output transformerless. And so it's a much kind of cleaner and faster sound than the variable Mu. The variable Mu, as you know, is got a giant sonic imprint. It says, hello, I'm here, and here's your big bowl of cream, right?
Yeah.
And the New Mu is less obtrusive, and it makes it really well suited for EDM and more modern music where you're not looking for all that vibe and color of the variable Mu. And so the two units, this one doesn't replace the other one at all. They're different animals completely.
We're going to make a meme out of what is it? Here's the big bowl of cream. And
That's the variable Mu.
that's amazing.
Mick Guzowski loves this New Mu for the stuff he's been working on more recently, like Jamiroquai and Daft Punk stuff. That kind of more modern
Absolutely,
music.
that makes
He really,
sense.
really likes this a lot. He's been a big proponent of it.
Well, I mean, the Vari Mu, all the mastering guys have them as well. But
yeah.
what I loved them on was just on guitar buses, to be able to tame the high
Nice.
end. Just pretty lovely.
A perfect application for that, because the guitar you're going to want to sound full and rich and strong sounding, you know. And it's a good place to put that.
And it just
as
sweetens up the high end. One less, you just don't have to EQ. You're like, oh, it did it all for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love listening, like, how Mick did a demo for us, and just like how much of the room sound you can get just by using dynamics like that. It's just like...
He's a very smart guy.
There's some cool things you can do with these dynamics processors besides just setting your level. It's really neat how it adds to the whole production of the song. It's amazing.
So many mastering guys use the Vari Mu just to pass signal. Just
Yep.
because it goes in, comes out sounding better. And they
Yeah,
keep going.
that's that push-pull circuit, and that's what that sounds like. It's pretty neat. Figured out which unit we should give away.
What's that?
It's this mic Maid here. It's something really useful, and it's a luxury few can afford.
What is it, sorry?
It's a mic pre and microphone matrix switcher. So you can plug in 4 of your favorite microphones
Yeah.
and 4 of your favorite mic preamps into this box.
Oh, really?
And it'll generate the phantom from here,
Yeah.
from this box.
Oh, no, this
It'll
is
block
fantastic.
it from the preamp.
Yeah.
It also has an instrument in a throughput in a all-pass filter, so you can phase match it, and you can level match your mic. So we've got a bunch of those built out, and I can send you home with one. Set up 4 mics in front of your singer or guitarist or whatever you're miking, and just sing. Okay, keep singing the same thing, and then you're producing like a pro. You're in there, selecting like, oh yeah, oh God, that Neumann sounds perfect on you. And then you're just A/B listening just instantly, like so much faster. And then same with the mic pre's, like maybe the color of one mic pre. Like you can instantly compare. You're not like playing backtracks later. It's happening right now. So you're a lot faster at making a better choice.
That's amazing. The
Mic
Manley Mic Maid.
Mic Maid.
And that is our giveaway.
That's what we're going to give away. So we use a Manley Mic Maid to test our microphones. Because every one of these microphones is listened to by a real human.
Beautiful. And we've had some pretty amazing results with Manley mics.
Oh,
when we
good.
went to Vintage King, that
Yeah.
came out as a huge favorite.
Yes, I've heard that. That mic wins in that room all the time.
We honestly, when I first heard one of these, I thought it was twice the price. I mean, it's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not
It's
an
still
inexpensive mic,
expensive.
but it's not as expensive as you think it's going to be. That's how good it is.
It's cool. Well, these that's that gold mic and the reference cardioid mic, the black and red one. Both of those started production in 1990, and the gold mic uses a David Josephson capsule, which is très cher. It's very expensive. The reference cardioid mic uses a Chinese capsule, and it's our best-selling product, so we're not going to change a thing with that. That capsule sounds really good in the whole system. It's actually, we got to that capsule. Remember these old guys?
Yeah.
All right, so also back in like 1990, we took over importation of this Chinese microphone from a guy named Ron Newdall from a company called ASC up in the Bay Area. And he was the first guy that I realized was importing Chinese microphones. And now everybody does, right? Except for us. So in the early days, we would get these guys in. We'd sell them. I think we sold them for like $400 or something. They'd come in on a pallet and people would order them. We just ship them right out. And then it's like, hey, this mic's not working. It's like, oh. And so I started actually testing everyone. And man, I used to, I'm going to screw this up. Open this for me. I don't want to scratch it. My rings are going to scratch it. Yeah, there you go. So I'd open up a mic, from the Chinese factory, and freaking resistor would fall off. And, so what we did, so it's like, all right, guys, why don't you all stop trying to solder because you're not that good at it. And so this board, actually, I personally laid this board out with tape and film, this board. And I connectorized that point there, I remember. This has a little bit of my handiwork in it. Anyway, so then we would build these boards here in Chino, not China. So our labor was good, right? And then, but our price was higher. And then I'd see, an ad for, you could get 2 Marshall MXL mics for the cost we were paying for just the metal work, no electronics, no labor in the capsule and the transformer, right? And you could get 2 completed Chinese microphones for the same price. I'm like, screw this. And I got out of this Chinese microphone game. And there's been other companies that have, been able to dedicate their lives to this pursuit, but that's not me. Anyway, but the capsule has always been a really good capsule. And that's what's used in the Manley reference cardioid mic. And there you have it. That's the story of that. That's our best-selling microphone, as you can see. Here's a whole bunch of them lined up here with their little leather condoms on. Just cooking in, again, like we do. We, let the power supplies be on, let the tubes burn in. And they're just cooking in until they're measured and tested one by one and listened to. And we use that Manley Mic Maid for that. Remember that sandblasting cabinet we were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Look over there on the shelf. You'll see those Manley silver microphones, Warren, if you want to pick up one of those. You don't have any scratchy rings on.
No, well, just a wedding ring.
But there's that finish I was talking about. So those
gorgeous.
Those are done here in-house as well.
It's really beautiful.
Isn't that neat? So what happens...
Very light, the whole kit.
That's aluminum.
And for those in England, aluminium.
Aluminium. It's polished. The tube is polished, and then we slide that netting over it, and then tape off the top, and then hit it in the sandblast cabinet, and then it goes in the laser engraver for that. There's a film applied, and then it black lasers that. This is an ancient vacuum tube Logic of Great Britain. This is one of the earliest David Manley amplifiers. It's a stereo integrated amplifier. And it's actually the first version of, and inspiration of what later became my Stingray amplifier. And this particular amp was on my test bench at the old VTL factory when I used to actually test gear and had my own tannoys on my test bench there and all that. That was my power amplifier on my bench. And it totally was an inspiration for me later when I designed this guy. This particular one...
The iTube.
Yeah, back 10 or so years ago, back when we were all using these things.
I remember them well, yes.
Before the phones, I did a license thing with Apple, and we did an iPod dock there.
Oh, look at that.
And so it would be another input. There's 3 other line inputs on the back RCA jacks, but then this would be your 4th input.
Hence the iTube.
And I trademarked that. It was the iTube, so that it lasts a while. And then Apple changed the dock away from the 30-pin connector, and I gave up on it by that time.
It's like the power supply on the laptops. I think I've got maybe 5 different kinds of power supplies for laptops.
Yeah. Well, I did it because I could. And the remote control would also control the track, so you could, in the volume, and you could do that. But I did it.
And I love these little tannoy speakers.
Those are little miniature ones. They're tiny versions of a big speaker.
Are they custom made or?
No, it's a production piece. It is? The Kensington, I think it is. I don't know if they're making them right now. These are a few years old.
I love how tiny they are, and then these huge, powerful cables going in.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Those are the grills for them here. They're magnetic, which is so clever. I think anything with magnets is like rocket science. Look how cool. It's magnets.
Oh, that's amazing. So this is what we are giving away, which I really want to keep myself because I'm like that.
Maybe you'll win.
I don't think I can win.
Oh, maybe I'll win. I'll win it back. This is a really clever luxury that few can afford. It's called the Manley Maid. And it's funny, when we named it, my French agent at the time, Fred, said, actually we were talking about this design that we're going to do with this mic switcher, and you can switch up your microphones and your mic pre's and choose. And he said, my assistant is dead. And I just like, we're going to call it the Maid. And now he's French. He did not put the acronym together.
Right.
He just thought of the brilliance of this idea and thought, I don't need another assistant because now I have this thing and I can just select you just put up the mics and then you can make a choice.
Right.
So it's a microphone and mic preamp selector and switcher. And it has a remote control pickle switch. We call it a pickle because it's kind of like shaped like a pickle.
Ah.
So you can do remote listening, like you don't have to be up next to the unit. So you plug that thing in and then you can sit away from it in the center of your speakers.
Great idea.
And listen to it.
And there, it's still in the packaging, and we'll keep it in there until it wings its way to you. Look at that.
So you have an instrument input that you can also bring in, and there's an all-pass filter, so you can do a phase match. What you do is you select up to 4 different microphones, and then you plug in 4 of your mic preamps. And if your mics need phantom power, you select that here. And then you can easily just boom, 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 just go step through your microphones and have your singer or whatever singing into all 4 mics, group them all close to each other. And you can instantly hear like what these things sound like and choose like, oh my God, that mic sounds so good.
So that mic with that mic pre,
yeah,
this mic
then you
with
go
that
through
mic
your
pre.
mics, and then you can lock pairs down so you can audition different pairs. And you can level match every one of these as well. So it's a great auditioning tool.
That is fantastic.
And it'll make your workflow faster because you can make such a good decision without a lot of effort.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very smart indeed.
So that's a clever, cool thing to do for your fans. Enter and win.
Marvellous.
Lovely.
Well, thank you ever so much. This has been a blast.
This has been a fun day.
Thanks for having us here at that Manley Laboratories. I like
Manley
saying
Labs.
that. Manley Labs.
Manley Laboratories. It sounds so scientific.
It does.
We are a bit geeky here.
Marvellous. Well, thank you. Have a marvellous time recording and mixing. Don't forget to put a whole bunch of comments and questions below.
Give us some thumbs ups.